Hey guys, so today's video I have been so anticipating over the last few months. This video is basically 5 years in the making. So I recently came to the realization that I have been documenting my beauty empties on the internet for over 5 years. The first empties video I ever posted on my channel was back in 2016, but the first full year of empties documentation that I have is 2017. So for those past 5 years, every single time I've used up a beauty product, whether it be makeup, skincare, hair care, body care, I've saved it in a bin before I threw it away so that I could share it with you in an empties video. I've never thrown away a beauty product without first showing it and reviewing it in an empties video. And for the past 3 years, I've actually been saving all my makeup empties to share in a video at the end of the year, to kind of give you a snapshot of all the makeup I used up in a full year. But even though I didn't do those year-end makeup empties videos before 2019, I still have documentation of all the products I finished. So I wanted to do something with all this information that I have on all my empties over the years. So I went back through all of my empties videos since 2017 and recorded the number of products that I used up in every category, including skincare, body care, and hair care, because I kind of wanted to see those numbers too. All right, it's me popping in from halfway through the video. I've decided to split this into two parts. I was going to include skin, body, and hair care in this video, but this video is already getting long, so I think I'm going to have a part 2 for the non-makeup beauty products coming soon, because I don't want this video to be 1,000 years long. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at those numbers over the years, and I thought this would be interesting for a couple of reasons. The first one being, I think it'll be interesting to see, on average, over the course of the past 5 years, how many of each type of product can I go through in a year. And I'm also really curious to see how that has changed with my makeup consumption habits. So about a year ago, I think it was right around a year ago, I did a video comparing my current makeup collection, or my current makeup collection a year ago, to my very first makeup collection that I ever posted on my channel in 2016. And I'll link that video for you below if you want to see it, but long story short, my collection obviously was bigger in 2021 than it was in 2016. So we know that the number of products that I've owned has slowly increased over the years. I think I've kind of leveled it out now. I don't see my collection growing too much beyond what it is right now. But I was wondering if that would affect the number of empties that I had each year. So we're going to take a look at that. And just kind of, I don't know, I just thought it would be interesting to take a look at. This video was definitely inspired by Too Much Tosh. She does a similar video on her channel. She actually just posted one this past weekend, I think. So a lot of the way that I broke it down was inspired by her, especially the way that I formatted my spreadsheet. So I'm going to link her video below as well if you'd like more content like this. She definitely is the person that planted the seed for me and made me decide that I wanted to do something similar. So let's get started. So the first category we're going to take a look at is face products. And within face products, I have several different types of products. So the first one is primer. In 2017, I used up 0 primers. Oh, one thing I want to mention, for 2017, my last empties video of 2017 was posted in, I think, October. So there may have been, I'm sure there were some products that I finished between like October and December, and then my next empties video after that was in January of 2018. So the numbers for 2017 might not be exact, just because I'm sure there were some products that I used up in those last couple of months that were in my first 2018 empties video, but it's close enough. So for primer, I used up 0 in 2017, 2 in 2018, 0 in 2019, 3 in 2020. Oh, and another thing to note, I feel like I'm gonna have a lot of little notes to add in here. But as far as minis and samples go, there's a bit of a distinction here. For regular minis, I'm counting those as one product. For deluxe sized samples, which tend to be even smaller than a mini, those are like a true sample, but in like a mini version of the product's normal packaging, I'm counting that as half of a product. And for any kind of like foil packet samples, things like that, I'm not counting those at all. Plus also taking into account the fact that full-sized products also vary in terms of size quite a bit. Some full-size foundations are double the size of another full-size foundation. So in my mind, I think that will kind of balance itself out. So that's why I'm counting a mini, as long as it's not like a teeny tiny mini, as one product. In 2020, I used up 3 primers, and in 2021, I used up 2 primers. So on average, over the last 5 years, I've used up 1.4 primers per year. So I can definitely see this number going down because over the last year, I've really kind of moved away from using primers and buying primers. I have one full-size primer in my collection right now and one deluxe sample. I don't use them on a daily basis. So I'm guessing this number will probably go down to maybe no more than one a year from here on out. And maybe in the future, maybe even 0 per year. Then we have foundations and base products. So this is any kind of foundation or BB cream, CC cream, tinted moisturizer, all of that counts in this category. This has been pretty consistent over the last 5 years. I've used up either 1 or 2 in a year. In 2017, I used up 2. In 2018, 1. In 2019, I used up 2. In 2020, I used up 1. Now remember, that was the Balm tinted moisturizer that was actually double the size of a standard foundation. So that's why I only used up 1 that year. And then 2 in 2021. So on average, I use up 1.6 or about 1.5 foundations per year. And I can definitely foresee my foundation usage to follow a similar trend in years to come because it stayed pretty consistent over the last 5 years despite the size of my collection changing. And then in the category of concealers and color correctors, I'm counting those as one category. This number hasn't been quite as consistent. In 2017, I used up 1. In 2018, I used up 4, which is the most I've used up in a year. 2019 and 2020, I used up 1, and then in 2021, I used up 2. So on average, I use up 1.8 concealers and or correctors per year. Yeah, 2018, man. 2018 was really the first year that I started really getting into project panning. Next, for face powders, in 2017, I used up 1. In 2018, I used up 3. In 2019, I used up 2, 1 being a regular face powder and 1 being an under eye powder. Remember the e.l.f. HD under eye setting powder? In 2020, I used up 3, again, one of those being an under eye powder, the other 2 being regular face powder. And in 2021, I also used up 2. So on average, I use up 2.2 powders in a year, so around 2 powders every year. And again, I feel like that number is probably going to stay pretty much the same over the years. I went through a period of time in 2020 and into the early part of 2021 where I really wasn't setting my face much with powder. I was using a very small amount of powder, mainly just on the under eyes, but I still managed to go through 3 and then 2 powders in those 2 years. So that didn't seem to influence my numbers all that much. Then we have the category of setting sprays. In 2017, I used up 0. In 2018, I used up 1.5. The half being like a deluxe sample of the Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray. In 2019, I used up 0. In 2020, I used up 2. And in 2021, I used up 1. Bringing my average to 0.9, which we can just round up to 1. So I go through about 1 setting spray per year. Next, for blush. In 2017, I used up 2 blushes according to my records. Oh, one of them was in the e.l.f. St. Lucia blush and bronzer duo. And then the other one, I used up 2 kind of sample-sized loose powder blushes, which I think I counted both as half of a blush, so that would make it a total of 2 blushes that year. In 2018, I used up 0. In 2019, I used up 1. Remember, who's been here since then when I was working on the Lauren Brooke Cosmetics blush in Sweet 16 in 2019? That was a big one that took a long time to use up. In 2020, I used up 0, and then in 2021, I used up 2. So that means my average number of blushes used up per year is 1, which I think makes sense. Which makes me wonder, if let's say I had 1 blush in my collection, because like I said, on average, I've gone through 1 blush per year. If I just had 1 blush in my collection and I used solely that blush every single day, I didn't have other blushes that I was bouncing between, would it take me a full year to use it up? Or would I go through it faster because it would be the only blush in my collection? That's interesting. Yeah, because keep in mind, these numbers are the number that I've gone through per year, also considering the fact that I do have other products that I use in addition to the ones that I finished. And many of the products that I finished, I didn't start using them the year that I used them up. I probably started using them the year before or even a few years before. So anyway, interesting to think about. Then we have the category of bronzer/contour. I just lumped these together into 1. In 2017, I used up 1. In 2018, I used up 0. In 2019, 2020, and 2021, I used up 1. So my average number of bronzers/contours that I use up in a year is 0.8 or, you know, close to 1 per year. There was only 1 year that I didn't use up any. So, and then for highlighters, I didn't use up any highlighters in 2017. I don't even think I really used highlighter in 2017. I do remember it took me a while to hop on the highlighter bandwagon. I think they became really popular in 2016, but I don't think I really started using it until 2018, which makes sense because in 2018 I went through 2.5 highlighters. One of them was the Wet n Wild, what was it called? Reserve Your Cabana highlighter, which is in a huge compact. I remember that was one of my first big project panning achievements. And then I used up a little cream highlighter from this brand called Fior Minerals that I think I got in a Pettivore box. A lot of the products I used up as I was going through these old videos were from Pettivore boxes, especially the skincare stuff, but that was like a cruelty-free subscription box I used to get. And then the half highlighter in 2018 was a little mini, like deluxe size sample of a liquid highlighter from Ulta Beauty. So that is the most highlighters I've gone through in a year so far. In 2019 I used up 1, in 2020 I used up 0, and in 2021 I used up 1. And so my average highlighters across all those 5 years is 0.9 or, you know, about 1 highlighter per year. So, you know, those cheek product categories that I'm always saying, for me at least, are one of the hardest categories to use up in a project pan. I now know that I can realistically expect myself to be able to use up about 1 of them each year. So that's really good information to have. And then another category I decided to add in, these I have not been including in my makeup empties videos for the past few years. So if you notice that my total number of makeup empties for these years is different than what they were in my makeup empties videos, that's why. So in 2017, I went through 0 sponges. That was before I used face sponges. In 2018, I used up 3. In 2019, I used up 2. 2020, 3, and 2021, 4. My average, including 2017 when I didn't use any, is 2.4. But then my average, not including 2017, is 3 per year. So I guess that means on average I get rid of them after about 4 months. So the total number of face products that I've used up per year has ranged, as you'll see, from 7 in 2017 to 17, and I used up 17 in both 2018 and in 2021. And so my average number of face products that I go through in a year is 13. All right, so next category is eye products. First, we have eyelid primers. In 2017, I used up 0. And then in 2018, 2019, and 2020, I used up 1. In 2021, I used up 0. So my average across all 5 years is 0.6. And I think the reason I didn't use up any in 2021 is because I had 2 that I was alternating between, so I just didn't use enough of 1 to fully use it up. But I think nowadays if I were to just have 1 eyelid primer in my collection, I would probably go through exactly 1 each year. So next for brows, first we'll talk about brow pencils. For these 5 years, from 2017 through 2021, the only type of brow filling in product, as I call them, anything that I would use to fill in my brows, I've only used up brow pencils. And I currently don't really use brow pencils. I do have one in like the dual-ended Urban Decay brow blade right now, but for a while now I've moved away from buying eyebrow pencils because I've been using the ABH Dip Brow Pomade to fill in my brows most days, but I haven't fully used up the brow pomade. Anyway, for brow pencils, in 2017 I used up 1, 2018 2, in 2019 I used up 5, and that was when I decided to stop buying brow pencils because I realized that I went through them so quickly. And then in 2020 and 2021, I have not gone through any brow pencils or any other brow filling in product for that matter. So my average is 1.6 per year, but like I said, I've stopped buying brow pencils for the most part, except for the Urban Decay brow blade, which I mainly bought for the marker side, but I don't really buy standalone brow pencils anymore. So that number is probably going to be like 0 or maybe 1 from here on out. And then for brow gel in 2017, I used up 2. In 2018 and 2019, I used up 0. I guess I just wasn't using brow gels for a while there. Then in 2020, I used up 1, and in 2021, I used up 2. So my average number of brow gels that I use up per year is 1. Next for a really fun category, which is eyeshadows. So in 2017, I used up 1, and I believe that was the e.l.f. Long Lasting Lustrous Eyeshadow in Toast, which is like a gold kind of potted single shadow. 2018 was my most successful year of using up eyeshadows yet. I used up 6 eyeshadows. 3 of them were part of a Wet n Wild 5-pan palette. And then I also used up a dual-ended cream shadow stick, so I'm counting each of those as one shadow. So that's the 6 eyeshadows I used up in 2018. Then in 2019, I didn't use up any eyeshadows. In 2020, I used up 5, which is a lot. That was the year that I was really trying to pan my Stila Glitter and Glows and my Stila Shimmer and Glow, so that was 4 right there. And then I also used up my e.l.f. Long Lasting Lustrous eyeshadow in Soiree. And then in 2021, I also used up 5 eyeshadows. What were they? No, I can't remember. Oh, my Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells quad. I'm counting that as 4 eyeshadows, even though I did eventually turn that into a Franken bronzer. I'm counting each of those 4 eyeshadows as one eyeshadow rather than counting it in the bronzer category. And then I also used up the e.l.f. Smooth Matte eyeshadow in Soft Beige, which was a cream eyeshadow that I also used as a bronzer, but I'm going to count it as an eyeshadow because it was called, the product itself was called an eyeshadow, and I did also use it as an eyeshadow. I kind of used it for both. But anyway, so my average number of eyeshadows that I use up per year is 3.4. Then we have eyeliner. This has fluctuated quite a bit. In 2017, I used up 2. In 2018, I used up 1. Then in 2019 and 2020, I really kind of fell out of love with eyeliners altogether. I remember I wasn't really wearing it very much at all, so I used up 0 in both of those years, which is hard to believe, but yeah, I guess so. And then in 2021, I used up 4 eyeliners. Yeah, 2021, I really got back into eyeliners. Now I love them. I'm already close to finishing up another one in 2022. So my average for those 5 years is 1.4 eyeliners per year, but assuming I continue to use eyeliners as much as I do now, I'm guessing that number will go up. Then we have mascaras, which has stayed somewhat consistent. In 2017, I have recorded that I used up 2. Now, I'm guessing there was probably another one that I used up in that end of the year few months where I didn't post an empties video. That was probably carried over into my 2018 empties, but because I don't know for sure, I'm just gonna say 2 for 2017. Then in 2018, I used up 5. So I think back then I was really religiously going by the 3-month rule, so I'm guessing I probably used up 4 in 2018 and 3 in 2017. And then in 2019, I used up 4. In 2020, I used up 5. And in 2021, I used up 4. So my average is 4 per year, or about 1 every 3 months. Lately, I am a little more lenient with this because most mascaras say they have a 6-month shelf life, and that little, you know, it's called the period after opening symbol that all beauty products should have on them. Every mascara I've ever had says 6 months, so I'm willing to keep them open for up to 6 months, or if they dry out sooner than that, I'll get rid of them, or if they get a weird smell or something like that, then of course I'll toss it. But now I'm also a little bit more willing to have like 2 open at a time rather than 1, just because I like testing out new mascaras, so I'll be curious to see if that number changes over the coming years. Then we have mascara primers. The only mascara primer I've owned and used up in the last 5 years was in 2020, and that was the CoverGirl Lash Blast primer. I didn't feel like that primer did anything for my lashes, so I kind of resolved not to buy lash primers anymore, also just because it's just an extra step that I don't really feel like taking. If my mascara is not already doing what I want it to do, then that's on the mascara. I don't feel like an extra primer is really gonna change that much, other than making my makeup routine take even longer, and then having one more product that I have to throw away at the end of the year. So probably won't have any more lash primers, mascara primers in the future. My average is 0.2 per year. And then false lashes, this is another one. I really don't wear false lashes. Who knows? One day maybe I'll totally change my mind and start wearing them more often. But in the last 5 years, I've only gone through 1 pair of false lashes, and that was in 2018. And the only reason was because I was a bridesmaid in actually 2 of my friends' weddings, and I wore them for that. That was it. That's the only time I've worn false lashes in the last 5 years. So again, my average per year is 0.2. So my number of eye products that I've used up in a year ranges from 8, which was the number that I went through in 2017, to 16, which is how many I went through in 2018. So again, 2018 was one of my most successful years. Then in 2021, I went through 15, so that was close. So my average number of eye products that I've used up per year over the last 5 years is 12.4. And then the last category that we're gonna go over in today's video is lip products. So this is lip liners, lipsticks, and lip glosses, not including lip balms here because that I consider a skincare product, so we'll talk about those in part 2 of this video. But for the category of lip liners, I didn't go through any in 2017. I don't think I really used lip liner that much back then. Then in 2018, 2019, and 2020, I used up 1. And in 2020, I used up 0. So my average number of lip liners per year is 0.6. And we have the category of lipsticks. Again, in 2017, I used up 0. In 2018, I used up 1. In 2019, I used up 0 again. In 2020, I used up 2, one being a full size and one being a mini, which was the Bite lip crayon in Glacé, but counting that as one product. And then in 2021, I used up 1. So my average number of lipsticks that I've used up per year is 0.8, which is close to 1. And I'm hoping to keep that number between 1 and 2 at least for the upcoming years. I used to not really put lipsticks in my project pan because, I don't know, for some reason I just didn't want to. But then in 2020, I became more motivated to pan lipsticks, so, which is funny because that aligned with the pandemic, but I was just wearing lipsticks around the house because I could, because it's fun, why not? So, but it's funny that my most successful year of lipstick use-ups was in 2020. But also keep in mind I do use lipstick as a cream blush often when I'm panning them. So I'm hoping to keep that number at least 1 per year from now on. And then finally we have lip glosses. In 2017 I used up 1. In 2018 and 2019 I used up 0. Again, that was a period of time where I kind of wasn't really wearing lip gloss. I didn't really like lip gloss for a little while there. Believe it or not, as much as I love it now, back then wasn't really into lip gloss. So that's why I didn't use up any in those years. In fact, I don't even think I had any lip glosses in my collection for a while. Then in 2020, I used up 2, one being a full size, one being a mini Tarte glossy lip paint. And then in 2021, I used up 3, which I am so proud of. And I'm hoping to keep this number between 2 and 3 in years to come as well. Just because, for one thing, lip glosses can go bad more quickly than other products if you keep them for too long. And I also enjoy panning them now. I feel like they're very easy for me to go through because I can reapply them almost like a lip balm or lip treatment. So hoping to keep that number around 2 and 3. But my average for the last 5 years has been 1.2. So my total lip product numbers over the 5 years, including lip liners, lipsticks, and lip glosses all together, have ranged from 1, which was how many I used up in 2017 and 2019, all the way to 5, which is how many I used up in 2020. And then my average number of lip products used up per year is 2.6. Is this too many numbers? I personally find this very interesting. Hopefully you guys do too. So to sum up this makeup empties analysis, I have counted up the total number of makeup empties across all categories for each of these years, and it really does vary pretty widely. In 2017, I used up a total of 16 makeup products, which is my lowest number of all these 5 years. In 2018, I used up 35. In 2019, I used up 21. In 2020, I used up 32, and then my highest number yet was 2021. I used up 36 items. Now, keep in mind, again, this number is different from what I stated in my end-of-year makeup empties for 2021 because I'm including sponges here. And in my 2021 makeup empties, I counted my Wet n Wild quad as 1 item, but here I broke it down as 4 eyeshadows, so that's why this number is different than what I stated in that video. But yeah, 36 products in a year, and I think for future years I am going to save my makeup sponges for my makeup empties as well, just because I feel like I would like to be able to see my usage on those as well. So my average number of products used up in all those 5 years is 28. So the very last metric that I want to talk about in this video is some dollar amounts. So first I want to talk about the total cost of all the makeup that I used up over these 5 years. Now I don't have this for 2017. I thought about going back and trying to calculate the total value, but a lot of the products that I used up in 2017 are discontinued, so it would be really hard to figure out exactly how much they cost, so I'm just not going to worry about that year. So I only have numbers for this for 2018 through 2021. But in 2018, I used up $232 worth of makeup. In 2019, I used up $206 worth of makeup. In 2020, I used up $328 worth of makeup. And in 2021, I used up about $270 worth of makeup. So my biggest year yet was 2020 with the $328 worth of empties. And it's so funny, I know like some people try to use up $1,000 worth of makeup in a year. I don't think I will ever meet that goal just because so much of my collection has always been drugstore, just lower cost items. I just don't think I'll ever reach that metric unless in the future I just start using way more high-end and luxury products, which I don't know. I don't really see that happening. I think drugstore is always going to be a pretty big part of my collection. But I took the average of those and that came out to $259 for those 4 years that I have numbers on that. And then I also wanted to talk about the total amount that I spent on makeup. Now for this, unfortunately, I only have calculated this for 2020 and 2021 just because I was recording this for both of those years. I didn't really keep track of my makeup spending in 2017 through 2019, so unfortunately I don't have anything for that. But in 2020, I did, if you remember, I did a beauty budget in 2020 where every quarter I showed you everything that I bought. My beauty budget in 2020 was about $900, I think, but that included skincare and hair care. So I went back to calculate how much I spent on just makeup in 2020. I didn't realize how low this number actually was. I only spent, I know that's subjective, but I spent about $364 on makeup in 2020, which is really not that bad. I thought I spent way more because in 2021, I spent $830 on makeup. But you can compare that to the cost of the makeup that I used up in both of those years, and it's interesting, in 2020, I came out about even there. But in 2021, I spent about 3 times more than I used up. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do any kind of low buy or some kind of spending goal for the year. I'm still trying to figure that out. I know we're already like 11 days into the new year and I'm still like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, if anything, because on the one hand, I'm like, well, I don't really feel like I need strict rules. I don't know. I'm kind of over like feeling any amount of guilt for buying makeup. I feel like I have developed pretty healthy spending habits in adulthood and I don't really want to like put all these strict rules and parameters on myself. I just don't feel like that's necessary anymore. But at the same time, I'm also tempted to maybe try to at least see that gap close a little bit between the value of what I use up and the total amount that I spent on makeup, because in 2021, the gap was pretty wide, and in 2020, it's nice to see that I kind of used up and bought about the same amount. So I don't know, I'm thinking about it still. And I was gonna do like a low buy video about like products that I'm not gonna buy this year, or like putting a cap on the number of certain types of products that I wanna like slow down on purchasing, like eyeshadow palettes. But again, I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. If anybody has any thoughts, ideas, feel free to share it in the comments. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had so much fun putting this video together. Last night I was sitting down going back through the list of empties that I had in all my videos from previous years, and it was just so fun to look back, take a little walk down memory lane. But anyway, that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. If you want to support my channel even more, I do have a Patreon, and I recently, by the way, I recently switched up the way that I have my Patreon set up so that no matter how much you pledge or donate, whatever you want to call it, you get the same perks. So the lowest tier is $2 a month, and you will get 1 bonus video per month plus early access to all my Project Pan updates. So I feel like that's a pretty good deal, just saying. So I'd love to see you over there, but if not, I also totally appreciate your support here on YouTube, of course. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you very soon in my next video. Bye.